Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, call Halal Yahweh, Shemir Hashai, Shemir Kakwadash, and of course, double honors go out to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who through the Holy Spirit continue to teach us His truth, giving us His wisdom and knowledge, alright, which will sorely be needed in the near future. This is Naaman with the DC Camp, and once again, here's another video highlighting how we need to get the hell up out of this place. It was never meant for us, and this is another example of what you will continue, or we will continue to get as a people if we continue to trust in oppression. Alright, here it is. This is from Newsweek. It says two brothers offered $75 million after being wrongfully imprisoned for 31 years over murder of an 11-year-old girl. One can only imagine, well, you don't have to imagine too hard, what the circumstances are here, being it where it happened. Alright, so let's go ahead and play this real quick.
Men were awarded $75 million for being sentenced to death for a rape and murder they did not commit. The men, who both have intellectual disabilities, have been behind bars for 31 years. A jury decided each man should get $1 million for each year they were wrongfully imprisoned. The men say police coerced them into confessing, and they used fabricated evidence to back up their false claims.
There you go. As is usually the case, especially years and years and decades, and actually all the time that we've been here, but especially I'll just put it in the what Esau describes as the good old days, when they could just railroad Jake without, with impunity. All right. It goes on to say the two brothers who spent decades in prison after being wrongfully convicted in the rape and murder of an 11-year-old girl. How many guesses will it take to oh man. You've already got their names and everything, and it says the jury also awarded them $13 million in punitive damages. That's where you get the remainder of that. All right. The payout comes after the brothers pursued a civil case against law enforcement members, arguing that their civil rights were violated during the interrogations that led to their convictions. Alright. The brothers' attorneys have said that they were coerced into confessing. The jury on Friday determined that two former state investigators, Leroy Allen and Kenneth Sneed, had violated Mr. McCollum's constitutional rights by coercing him into confessing. In other words, wink wink, tortured him. Alright. Scrolling on down, it says the Robeson County Sheriff's Office, which was one of the defendants, settled its part of the case for $9 million on a Friday, and the town of Red Springs settled in 2017 for $1 million. The brothers were sentenced to death in 1985, so you know who that girl was. And Mr. McCollum became North Carolina's longest-serving death row inmate. Mr. Brown's sentence was later changed to life in prison. Alright, because you gotta wonder why isn't a picture of the victim or anything like that up here after this ruling came down. Alright. It says in 2014 the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission said that the DNA found on a cigarette butt taken from the crime scene matched another individual named Roscoe Artis. Alright, because in 1985, you gotta remember, DNA was in its infancy stage. I mean, infancy. Alright. It goes on to say Mr. Artis was a convicted rapist and murderer who lived less than 100 yards from where the victim's body was found, a statement from the brother's attorney said at the time. Imagine that. 31 years. Some Jakes came out last year. Jake did 44 years. They paid him, but they only paid him for 15 because of the law. So what about the other 29 years? In this case, but you can't outrun the curses. Something's going to happen. I guarantee you. Wow. This is just, but like I said earlier, this is what you get. You continue to trust in oppression. This is Isaiah 30 and um, 12. It says, "Wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word," which our people do. You go in there and jump around and flop around in those whorehouses they call churches. They're not telling you the truth. That was not set up for your um, well-being. That was a method of control. That plantation Christianity that our people learn. It says, "And trust in oppression and perverseness, and stay thereon." Why? Because you put uh, all your faith in your oppressor. Actually, in man, in and of himself, than the Most High, but in particular, your oppressor. Verse 13, "Therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out, and a high wall whose breaking cometh suddenly and at an instant." And that's never more true than what's going on now, and the times that we're in now. All right, again, putting your trust in this devil and his science. All right, so let's go at the top of this chapter. Judah warned against Egyptian alliance, and this is just substitute anybody in this. All right, it says, "Woe to thee, rebellious children, saith the Most High Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt." Because this whole thing is trying to get you to come back to the Most High. There's no other way you can do it, but our people just don't get it. "Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame." The jab and all this other stuff. "And the trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion." Alright, so let's see how much time I got here. Alright, so that's just it. Now let's stay in Isaiah, but let's just go up a few books. This is Isaiah, and they knew this. They tried to, because they were, had learning disabilities or whatever, that were mentally challenged, and they just tried to railroad them. That was it. And they were hoping no one would ever find out. But their own science, and that's what's been happening lately with incidents like this, all right, is turning out to free the people that were railroaded. This is Isaiah 42 and 20. It says, 22, I'm sorry. "But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for prey," and we are a prey here. All right? Nothing but. There's no one, like Jeremiah 15 and 5 says, no one's concerned about our well-being. No one asks how thou doest. It goes on to say, "And none delivereth for a spoil, and none saith." All these little things that Esau, it appears he's doing right, but he can't. These are just token gestures. At the end of this, it says, "None saith restore." Psalms 83. No one wants for us to be back in our rightful place. Again, token gestures. Now, like I said, you can't outrun the curses. You know, I'm not wishing anything bad on the Jakes, but again, we're still here in captivity under the curses. There's no telling what's going to happen. All right, so I will leave it there once again. Wow, 31 years. So, and that's just since they have gotten out. That was 2014, so you got to add another 7 to that. All right. So with that, hey, call hello Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashim Kakwadash. Hey, Shalom.